Hi everyone, it's Eliana, and I know it's been a while since I've posted a video, but I wanted to share how I made this card. I do have several examples at the end of the video, and I'll be sure to share the products I used at the end, but for now, let's just get started on the focal card. I will be using the Simon Says Stamp Deco Diamonds stamp. And I'm also going to be using the Finetec mica watercolor set. This one in particular is no longer available, but I'll be sure to link to the new and improved version. It has the same colors in it. It's just you get more product for your money. I'm first starting off by using my embossing powder tool with on my cardstock. And I use that so that it removes any oils or any static that's on my Onyx black cardstock. And now I'm just going to be inking up with my Ink on 3 embossing ink. And I do this a couple of times just so that I can make sure that I get good coverage because it is a large stamp. Now I'm adding my embossing powder, and I'm using Alabaster from Brutus Monroe, and I'm just thumping off any extra. Once I have good coverage, then I'll go ahead and use my heat gun to melt the embossing powder. You do want to make sure that you get everything melted, or else it will leave a little bald spot. So just be sure you tilt your cardstock just so that you can see that everything is shiny. That way you know it's completely embossed. Now I'm just taking some water, some clean water, and I'm just spreading it across my cardstock. You don't really need to do this step. I tried it both ways, and it doesn't really matter. Now I'm just adding some liquid into the watercolor just so that I could loosen the pigment. And I am using different brushes, that way I don't have to rinse my brush each time. And I'm just randomly adding color to my cardstock. I did emboss this in Ranger's Princess Gold, and I used Gina K Onyx Black cardstock, and I used Papertrey ink Smokey shadows just for a variation, just to see how it would turn out. So as you notice, I have my cardstock adhered to a piece of MDF board, and I have my purple tape holding it down. This isn't watercolor paper, so you need to be careful how much water you add to it, just because it will start to pill up. And because I am just using minimal water, it wasn't an issue. And by adding a little bit more water after it's dried a little bit, it does allow you to blend the colors a little bit better, but I was okay with having splotches of color. Now once it's all dry, you'll see just how shimmery this paint is. And I also took a towel and I just buffed the watercolor off the embossed part of the card. So because it will resist the watercolor, so you're able to just go ahead and wipe it off, and then you'll be able to see the stamped image a lot better. Now I'm going to pull off my purple tape. This is from Thermoweb, and it is low tack, so you are able to pull it off without damaging your cardstock. Now I need to create some paper that matches my design. So I'm just taking the scrap pieces that I had from the end of my paper, and I'm just going to color them with the same colors that I used in my card. I'm using the gold and like a pearlescent color. Later on, I'll realize that I didn't go all the way to the edges, and so you'll see me add a little bit more color. So I'm using this U die from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of my cardstock. I want to layer some of these pieces, and so I've just used this as my adhesive, and here I am figuring out that I did not paint all the way to the edges. So I'm going to pull out my watercolors again, and I'm just going to go all the way to the edge. That way when I die cut, it will be fully covered. And it's okay if I get streaks because I want that kind of watercolory streaked look. And then I'm going to set these aside to dry a little bit while I get the rest of my card ready. So now I'm going to use my little die cutter from Altenew to cut out my pieces. And I only need one of these for the top, and then I'm just going to use the same color cardstock just to layer underneath. And it did cut the cardstock all the way through, it just didn't cut all the way through the release paper. I'm going to be using the stitched rectangles from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm just going to take that over to my die cutter, and now I've cut off my panels. I am going to be using this Thanks die from Honeybee. I cut it out about 4 different times in each color, and then I layered them together. So I'm just going to trim off the S so that it could say thank you. And once that's taken care of, I am going to adhere everything down together. But before I do that, I want to flatten out my watercolor paper a little bit, and so I'm just going to put it in the sandwich and run it through my die cutting machine, and now they're perfectly flat. I ran it through a few times just so that it would be nice and flat. Now I'm taking some foam and I'm going to glue it onto the back of my card panel just so that it pops it up just a little bit, and I'm adding some score tape. I'm going to push that down really well, and then I'm going to score some cardstock just to create my base. So I'm using Smoky shadows here, and I use also black. And then I'm just going to peel off the center of my score tape, and I'm just going to peel off the edges. That way I could center it first, and then I could reach underneath and pull off the edge pieces very easily. Now to adhere my letters, I'm just trying to figure out which one I like the best, and so I'm going to go with the gold. And it kind of looks like there is some silver mixed in with the gold. It just depends on how you tilt your cardstock. Now I want to make sure that the U is completely straight because it is a big focal piece. I am just using my Creative Corners and my MISTI to make sure that the top portion of the U is straight. Now I did use a little bit of spray adhesive onto the back of the thank part, and because I fiddled so much with it, I had removed the adhesive off the back. So I just sprayed it, and that way I could adhere it down. And once I'm happy with the placement, I'll just set it aside to dry. Here are the other cards I made. This one is using the gold embossing powder. And I did add some Studio Cadia gems to it. And this is the Papertrey ink Smoky Shadows. Now this one is using the Ellen Hutson Holiday Words, and I just used the love. And here's the die set, just so that you could see. It does have some Christmas sentiments in there, but you could use the love for anything. This one is using the Altenew Mega Succulent. And the Hello is from the Honeybee stamp set. Now the Honeybee one is the Hello Gorgeous, but the Hello was a shadow, and so I just took a craft knife and I cut the center out of the E just to make it look like it was supposed to be like that. I used my scrap pieces to make this card, and I'm using the Painted Poppies from Altenew. And I did use the Happy Birthday from one of the Altenew stamp sets too. So be sure to check out all the products used in the description below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching and sticking all the way to the end of the video, and I hope you have a great day.